Hi there. This is a tutorial to help you know how to use your watercolor travel kit. There is a sponge on the top that actually will pull off. It is Velcroed on, super handy. If it starts to get too dirty as you use it, you can just pull it right off, go wash it under the sink. The brush has a cap, and it is a round brush there. You will need to unscrew your brush from the water supply. Make sure you fill it up and refresh. When you are done using your watercolor kit, you should dump out the leftover water just to make sure you don't have it just sitting there, because you don't want things to grow in your water part. Right here to get it going. Give it a couple squeezes and the water will gently come out of it. You'll notice that I do have a sketched out illustration of what I would like to paint, and I personally like to sketch out my ideas first, but I know a lot of other people prefer to just go from their imagination, or they like to paint from real life. The image I'm working on is actually a photograph of a little vacation trip I took with my daughters, Lily and Scarlett. So I'm gonna have that up and posted so I can keep an eye and check my colors as I paint them down. I also suggest, if you don't have like a thicker type of paper or watercolor paper, if you have a thinner drawing paper, it will work just fine. But you should back that drawing paper with like a paper towel or a newspaper or something. Also make sure you're working on a clean surface that gives you plenty of space. Something else I enjoy is having just a spare piece of paper next to me to do like color tests as well. So the cool thing about this is it shows you what colors are on each tab. So as you open it up, voila, you have lots of colors to choose from. Kind of splay them all out, and you can tuck away the ones you don't necessarily need. So for me, I don't really need the reds and oranges for my image. I do need some of those blues and kind of brown colors, definitely those greens, and I'm probably gonna need the white at some point, but it's not as important. So I'm just gonna kind of tuck it further in. So the nice thing about this is you can kind of think about what you're painting, consider the colors you're going to use, and have the ones you do plan on using sticking out further for easy use. Another thing that I enjoy doing is called just prepping my palette. So getting the water down into the brush, saying, I'm definitely going to be using this green. So I'm gonna squish, squish, just kind of prep it by moisturizing it first here. Squish, 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 squish. And I'm also a fan of not worrying too much about mixing, because I know how to then clean it later on. So I'm just gonna have a little bit hanging about here, because I am going to want to use all my greens for my picture. So there, I have my greens kind of prepped. Squish, squish. Just let a couple drops go down. There we go. And then squish, squish, and kind of clean off that green so that I don't ruin then my blues. So I can prep my blues a little bit. And squish, squish, dot them on there. These blues right here, I think, are going to be the main ones I'm going to want to use at first, along with some white tones. So just going to get those a little bit ready. There we go. And now I have those colors kind of prepped. I'm going to kind of test over here to see how translucent, how thin and clear my paint might be versus how opaque, how solid and non-see-through my paint might be. Clean off my brush a little bit. Boop. And notice I still have a ton of water. Like the water goes very slowly out of it. Blink, blink. And I can also use my paper towel on the side. There we go. Now it's more translucent. See like how it's more opaque, more translucent. And I personally like to work with my watercolors thinner because then I can build up the coloration. I can go from like background tones and keep building and add more on top. And that's the way I prefer to work, even though lots of artists work in lots of different ways and there's no wrong or right way to do that. When you are working on a watercolor painting, you also, if it's a landscape, want to think, ooh, are you going to start with your background, kind of work towards your midground, and then do your foreground from back to front of your image? You always kind of want to have a game plan of where you're going to kind of place your paints first, because you might have to do some waiting if you're going to do layers so that a certain area is dry, and then you can work on another part and then go back and add your layers. When you're done painting, of course, you actually will want to leave your palette kind of sprawled out like this. And that's just to help these dry. You don't want to close it all up, pack it all away, and leave them wet. You always want to allow your palette colors to dry, otherwise they are prone to growing things in them. And I have seen some pretty weird things happen with watercolors. So just make sure they're drying out. It really doesn't take too long, like an hour or so. And then also unscrew and dump out the extra water in the water part. And you're all done, all cleaned up. Things can dry and you have a painting for your fridge or for a frame or to give to a friend, whichever your preference. The next part here that I'm gonna have is I'm gonna allow you guys to watch me just paint on kind of fast forward mode. So you don't have to watch it, the slow process. I'll fast forward it for you. All right, happy painting.